Hey, everybody. Josh Sheridan here, the Barely Legal Podcast.
They demand my alter ego, but I won't go. Because
I'm honored today to have Scott. Do you call yourself Scott Lavan? Well, no, you don't call yourself. Do people call you Scott Lavan Miller, or is that just how you put yourself on social media?
They do, and I did, and I have to always correct them that it's Scott Lavan.
Lavan.
Miller.
At least I fucked it up the same way everybody does.
The way everyone does.
I don't feel so bad.
Yeah, no, I don't. There's a lot of Scott Millers, super duper common name. I can tell you stories about that, but
I'm sure you get shit from
it goes all the way back to I've got like Polaroids of
people
undressed girlfriend sending something to the boyfriend in my apartment complex because there was another Scott Miller there.
So it's a hit or miss. I mean,
I've had bad results read to me in a doctor's office for a different Scott Miller. I'm like, what?
Yeah.
so anyhow, online, I throw in the middle name.
Well, it's a cool middle name. It reminds me, who's the guy? I'm trying to think it's like a Satanist guy. LaFay. Someone else has made this connection. Oh, okay. Before. Every time I see it, that's what I think of. Well, who's that? LaVey. Anton LaVey. Yeah. Wasn't he like a head of a Satan worshiping?
Yeah, I think it was NoWiki that made that connection.
That would be a connection then. You've just surrounded yourself with I guess for each of you, that's true. John, Owen, you are an eclectic crew, but you're all eclectic. It's not like there's a straight man and the rest are just not weird. I think I interviewed Owen first. And then he's like, yeah, you don't want to talk to me. You want to talk to John. John's the genius of it.
Oh yeah.
And then I talked to John, and John's like, there's only one person that I'd let play drums for me. And so like all of you like are
shit. I got to go home and practice. When you say something like that, I got to get better.
You guys got a show. You guys got shows coming up, right?
Holy Terror.
You have so many bands between you guys. I can't keep track of I know there's a Poetry and Lotion album that's coming out, the covers album.
Right.
And you're not in that band, but you're like in 3 other bands of them.
Correct.
So anyway, well, as per usual, I start at the end and I need to like reel myself in. So today's your birthday.
It is.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
53 years old. I hope you don't mind me saying. You put it on Facebook.
Hell yeah.
Was 50 like life shattering, or was it just a Thursday for you? Was it?
It wasn't as big a deal as probably like 46 was, because like a lot of shit happened in 46 that where you're like, oh, okay.
To you or the people around you?
No, me. Oh, yeah, like some health stuff and back surgery.
Your balls start hitting the water when you sit on the toilet.
It was more like 42.
Oh, okay, yeah. So, are you a Florida guy originally?
Born and raised.
I saw Pensacola on your social media, so I didn't know if that was it. Or
no, born and raised Pensacola in Tampa the last 33 years now.
All right. And so Miller, are you just a waspy Englishman, or what's your
100%.
Yeah. Have you done the DNA deal?
Totally.
Is it all just like the corner of?
It is a straight line to England and Ireland, but mostly England. On my mom and dad's side, there is no variation. It just.
Were they Florida folks, or did they meet somewhere else?
No, they're Georgia.
So you got some Bible Belt in you.
I'm 100% Bible Belt for hundreds of years.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Were you brought up in that as far as Baptist or fundamentalist?
Southern Baptist, not just Baptist, dude.
You got the you got the extra helping.
I got the fire and the brimstone.
That's awesome. But you know what's great about that for me, especially in the music world, is some of the most amazing music derives from that. You know, you got to have some fire and brimstone in your music.
Yeah, unfortunately, I was not at that Southern Baptist church. I was at the more very weepy white Southern Baptist church, and there's still music from there that I like. Just because it's good melody, it's good music, it's strong stuff. But you know, I tell people all the time, if I'd grown up in like an African American church, where the music is good and you feel it, I'd probably still be going to church.
But there's people, I think it's like Father John Misty. There's other people who come from these like super fundamentalist families where it was like they weren't allowed to listen to Bob Dylan. And then they went the other way once they kind of got away from that. It was kind of a answer to being suppressed, their access to art or their ability to do art. So I think it can go both ways.
Our church just had especially shitty music. It just was. It was like the '80s with a lot of backing tracks on tape and a 14-year-old girl trying to sing to it that sometimes was good and sometimes wasn't. And it was so we didn't clap.
Right. Siblings?
2 sisters, older and younger.
How much older? How much younger?
About 3 years older.
So having an older sister as a guy seems like it's a big win, because they have the sleepovers. They know you as the cute little brother. Any of that going on?
No, we no. She was the best thing from that era. 2 things. One, she was cool enough to let me sneak back into the house through her room, which was the furthest from my parents.
Yeah.
So I could be undetected.
Nice.
She worked with me on that. I'll never forget it.
Were you a hellion?
Yeah.
Where were you? Because you're kind of low key now, but there was a wilder days.
Yeah.
Yeah. What was your choice? What was it? Just.
I think the thing that in enough times past I could talk about it and nobody could prove.
Hey, you've got a good attorney
that it was me or where. But there was a lot of vandalism.
Yeah.
In my late
Pensacola.
teens. Yeah.
It was like Circle K blowing up the Dollar General?
No, like using cars
to
run down mailboxes and drive through people's yards and do donuts and hit other things with a car. We bought a car once specifically to just do bad stuff with.
That's badass.
73 Buick LeSabre.
That's a nice car to do damage with.
With a 350 in it. And
it's like a lanyard. Now, wait a second. What's the car on the Rototiller cover?
That is Jake Trimper's El Camino.
Okay. I was wondering if there was
badass, like a 454.
Some significance there. All right. So what about music in the household? Did your older sister, younger sister have tastes that you share? Did your parents listen to it? That
would be the second. So there were 2 things from my older sister.
Okay.
The one's letting me sneak in. The other was that's where I discovered everything.
Okay.
She just happened to be at the right age. She doesn't listen to any of that stuff now.
Yeah.
But she had
like new wave punk, New York scene, like Talking Heads.
Well, for me, because I'm a pretty tried and true hard rock guy first before any.
Are you? I don't know that I knew that. Well, good.
Oh yeah, and so she had Van Halen 1 on 8-track, and that changed my life. She had Women and Children First on 8-track, and she had like Zeppelin 4 on vinyl.
Right.
That was my starter kit, and maybe Queen the Game on 8-track.
And you became a drummer.
That was my starter kit. Yeah, actually,
you play guitar though too. You play everything, don't you?
Yeah, but I didn't buy a guitar until I was 35-ish.
Oh, okay. 35. So what was your first instrument?
Oh, drums.
And was it that far back, or did that come a little bit later?
No, that like within a few years of just getting turned on and playing. Zeppelin backwards and trying to.
I always equate
freaked out.
I always equate drummers and bassists to relief pitchers and punters because they have a longevity and everybody needs them. So you can always someone's going to need you somewhere, and you can do it. Forever, I guess. I mean, drumming, I guess, at a certain point might take its toll, but it's like a utility that is so rare in that. There's a million guitarists, anybody's wanting to sing, but if you can find a good drummer, find a good bassist, then you're cooking.
Yeah. I think bass number 1. No, I take that back. Actually, I think drums are the hardest to fill to my liking.
Which is strange because, and I don't think it's true, but people genuinely think that bass is the easiest instrument to play, which I think is not true, but people think it's true. Yeah, drums are crazy. And I have this I can't play drums at all, but I have this fascination with drums, and I always talk about it with drummers here. I started listening to this podcast that all it is drummers. And are you okay?
I just realized I can move right here and put you around this microphone.
Do you want to look at my face? I mean, you really don't. I'm not going to force you to.
I was peeking at you through the little opening.
I put so much stuff in here to distract you from looking at me for that express reason.
Sorry.
But no. So this Crash Bang Boom podcast, it's all metal and hardcore drummers. And all they do is talk about drumming. And it's so crazy to me. And I love it. And it's everything about cymbal height and distance between your toms, and do you use one pedal or two pedals on your kick drum, and how high do you put your seat, and what sort of breathing methods do you use, and what are your rudiments, and what are all this other stuff. And it's such a crazy science and art that is so different from every other thing, and it's funny because I've had some decent drummers in here, and I'll ask people how they write their music or how they remember their music, and I almost never get the same answer twice. It's like, one guy's like, well, I named this part this, and I just put that name times 3, and then I named this part that, or other people get a little bit more technical to it. But it's so interesting to me. I really do dig it. And it's so different from, because I have a very fundamental understanding of guitar and bass, but drums just mystify me. But I think they're super cool.
It goes that way.
Yeah.
And there's, I'm a drummer first for sure.
Yeah.
And when everything I'd start with on guitar, I have to be interested in a rhythm first.
Who was your guy back then? Was it Alex or was it John Bonham?
John Bonham.
Yeah.
John Bonham. Actually, those two very much. Looking back, Alex just because he was Eddie's brother in that band. But really, John Bonham and Stuart Copeland.
Alex looked like every older brother who owned a Camaro in the neighborhood and sold weed to the younger kids.
His name should have been Chaz.
Yeah, exactly.
Todd.
Yeah. He just always looked at.
I'm sure he had a Nova.
Exactly. Well, I didn't realize that they were and I'll fuck this up, but they were part.
Fix it.
Okay. Well, they're part Asian and part Swedish, or part Asian and part Norwegian, or part.
Father from Holland.
Okay.
Mother was Dutch Indonesian.
Okay.
Yeah, I could tell you the
whole story. That's
awesome. But super Asian and 100% immigrant.
Yeah. And they had a hard time everywhere they lived. I forget who was telling me about it, but they experienced racism pretty much everywhere.
Oh, it's why they moved to America.
Right. Yeah.
It was even worse in Holland when he tried to, their dad was, Van Halen dad was a musician on a cruise ship, how he met the mom in Indonesia. But then coming back home with his wife, she couldn't get work.
That's crazy. Yeah.
So they migrate here and it worked out.
It went a different way. Yeah. It went a positive way. So how much did that impact you this year or last year?
Oh, that was October 5th or 6th. It was this year.
There's always these people that when they go, it's like, okay, I'm in a new era of my life now.
Yeah.
When Bowie went, that one fucked with me a lot.
Yeah. Tom Petty, I think, was probably the one that, for a lot of us, that no matter
from Florida,
what,
I mean, if you're a rock guy from Florida, how can you not? He was it.
Standard bearer for Florida.
I bring the story up a lot. I get pissed off at my wife's cousin because so at some point in my life, I figured out that if you buy single seats to a concert, you can get really good seats. It's particle board. You can put it wherever you want. You can get up really close because there's always that odd seat that people don't purchase because usually couples buy or a couple couples buy, but you always have that odd man out seat. And if you want to go by yourself, you can get up really close. And I've done it a bunch of times. Well, I got great floor seats for Tom Petty the last time he played here before he passed. It was like 3 months before he passed, 4 months before he passed. Yeah. And it ended up being the same night as my wife's cousin's wedding. And I had to get that ticket away. And then a couple months later, he died. I was like, son of a bitch. And I heard it was like a Springsteen level. He played every song. He played for 4 hours. Right. Cause I think they were calling it his retirement.
They probably weren't going to do any big tours
after that. He was pushing 70.
They'd play live and they'd be, there'd be shows, but I don't think there were going to be big tours. But yeah, the Eddie thing, it always surprises me still and how much it can be a kick in the gut. Good God, I'm 52 years old and I'm in my garage crying, because dude I've never met and I've just given him a bunch of money over the years. But the music's that important.
Really is. And it's a thing that I have thought about a lot since his passing is I do not think they exist today, meaning that there isn't a Van Halen today. Van Halen was not hair metal the bands that kind of get shit about it. They weren't heavy metal like Metallica or whatever. They just had this sense of fun to their music. And who can you think of after Van Halen that fills that spot?
No. I mean, that's the thing I describe to folks around me. Most everyone I hang out with for some reason is 10 to 15 years younger than me, maybe because 53-year-olds aren't hanging out a lot.
You're just a cool dude. Yeah.
So, and when these guys get old, I'm going to go find some 30-year-olds.
Right. Yeah.
But, a lot of them certainly not from that particular moment in time that I went through with Van Halen. It was just like, I remember buying vinyl as it came out.
Yeah.
Fair warning when it came out, all that kind of stuff. And it was my first concert.
Oh, was it?
1982.
Oh, wow. So that held a lot of,
Biloxi, Mississippi, general admission, all this.
Who opened? Do you remember?
I have no idea. I don't know.
Mine was Rolling Stone Steel Wheels at the old stadium with Living Color opening. That was
nice.
That was my.
I've seen Living Color.
Yeah.
But back then, I think the thing, or what was so different is just what a party the whole concert was.
For sure.
The atmosphere was, and later, of course, Eddie described Dave as a bit of a clown and that being a circus and all that. Well, it was a lot of freaking fun.
Yeah.
And I haven't been to many concerts since then that had that level.
Well, I think metal stopped being pop music at some point, or rock stopped being pop music. Pop became something else. So at the time when Van Halen, they were effectively pop music. That's what people in high school were listening to.
Right.
And generations after that, I think maybe grunge or arguably nu metal was the last time you were going to hear a primarily instrument driven type of music playing in a high school parking lot or at a party. From there, it became, hip hop and all that kind of stuff. And I don't even know what the fuck they listen to anymore. But, so I think that's part of what happened. But that to me too is why it was a bummer is we've gotten so in a lot of ways, all the fun is gone for music. It's, it's got to be about a political thing or it's got to be about, whatever, where's even like Foo Fighters is the one that I always circle around to is like, who would I call the Van Halen today? But all their music is about, kind of.
They're great. I love them, but it's a little more narrow field than, with Van Halen. You still had guys who grew up with parents who were playing swing music in the house.
Yeah.
You still had influence of a lot of things from the 60s and there's a lot being mixed there.
Right. So your sister was your entry point to the music though?
Absolutely. I had a couple of Kiss records that a friend on the street, left at my house and I never gave back. And
Kiss was another one. I don't think that they aged as well as Van Halen, but
I still like what I like, but it's a little, it's a small. It's just the live albums. I
got your phases with Kiss because I liked Kiss when I was a kid because I thought it was neat that they dressed up. And then I went into the grunge, Guns N' Roses, where it was like, that's stupid, whatever. But then through the Melvins, I became Kiss fans again because they're such big Kiss fans and they did their own version of the singles album that each of the different members did, one with their face. And so I got this kind of ironic hipster appreciation of Kiss by way of the Melvins. So, but anyway, so, after high school, what'd you do? Right to college, right to the military, right out to the working world?
I stuck around Pensacola. I was going to be a machinist for a minute. I took some junior college.
You clearly have an interest in automobiles.
Yeah, that's you couldn't grow up in my dad's house and not,
well, you're
like first take a lawnmower engine apart and rebuild it and put it back together and then take a mini bike apart and then build a go-kart and then build, my first car he and I built from pieces. And
that's that's so amazing and another lost art, we're not going to have probably any more presidents who served in the military, or it's going to be very rare. We're going to have very few men who can fix their own car anymore. I can't do it. So I'm but I think that's such a good thing that I wish was more prevalent, not just in lower social economic strata, but across the board. I wish it was something that people took an interest in.
It's interesting. Well, it was, of course, it was less about I mean, we enjoyed it. It's probably the best thing my dad and I have together. Is
he still alive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, he'll be 82 in a couple months.
How's he doing?
He's great.
Good.
He's in better shape than me.
Oh, good. Yeah. Well, good.
It's crazy. He's amazing. But yeah, so it's certainly, from bicycles on taking it all apart, fixing it, trying to make it better, clean it up, paint it, re-grease it, whatever mechanical stuff. But I just wanted to, like, my goal after high school was to make enough money to put some sweet rims on my car.
Right. So when would this have been? What year would this have been?
Goals. 80. I graduated in 86, and so 87.
So you mentioned Nova, and it was right around that time that I remember Nova was the car to have. That was what everybody, if they wanted a hot rod, they'd go buy a Nova.
They looked really good, jacked up.
Oh yeah, those big tires in the back.
Back then, we weren't lowering anything quite yet. It was about a year away.
Oh, everybody had the CRXs or the whatever.
Yeah, I'm more from the jack it up.
The good era. Yeah. So you wanted to be a machinist. What happened with that?
I just wanted to make something more than minimum wage. So kicked around there for about a year, and I was working this job, kind of the machinist. I didn't even finish it, but I did enough and met somebody and was able to get some work, at a place, and still living at home. And I got one of those like reply mailers.
Yeah.
For a tech school in Tampa, and it had like palm trees on it and robots. It was an electronic trade school.
Yeah.
Radar, all these cool sounding things. And I'm like, so I filled it out and sent it. And 3 months later, got some basic furniture in the back of my dad's truck, moving to Tampa to go to a tech school. So I moved here by myself when I was just shy of my 20th birthday.
Had you been in any bands yet by that point?
Yeah, so in high school, I went from, like, my freshman year, I played football, starting football player.
What'd you play? What position?
You're gonna laugh.
No, you're a lineman or something.
Yep.
Yeah.
Offensive.
Yeah, but you probably were strong as fuck from messing around with wrenches and engines and all that stuff.
I was close to this. I was this height. I haven't grown since ninth grade.
Yeah,
for sure. And yeah, it was freshman, so we weren't giants yet.
Yeah.
But I went from football, and my best friend talked me into, my best friend at the time figured out I should be a drummer.
Yeah,
I was constantly
pounding on stuff. Yeah.
And so he got me into that and actually convinced me to quit football and join band, because jazz band in high school, you go to school every day and there's a drum set there. You can play. And
a place to play drums.
As much as school sucks.
Yeah.
I hated school. Going in, knowing you had, actually, once you get into band, you can just, at that time as a senior or junior and senior year, I had at least 3 band classes a day. Mm-hmm. Really took the suck out of school.
Right.
Quite a bit. So that gave me
then you were in shop access. The other 3 classes. And
I want to make stuff.
Yeah.
But that got me, that's how I got to a drum set and got even some, but there was a catch. You couldn't just join jazz band like I tried to do. You got to march.
Right.
Which I shouldn't have resisted, because it turned out to be so much fun.
Oh,
yeah,
for sure. My best friend in high school and college, his sister was in the band, both at my high school and at the college we went to. And the best parties I went to were the band parties. I think so many people in band are fighting so hard to overcome a stereotype that they were like more of partiers. They were crazier. They were.
Yeah. The stories about bandcamp.
Yeah, it's true. True. Yeah.
I tell you, the bus rides to an out of town game or competition were co-ed.
Oh yeah, some of the best memories. Yeah, for sure.
But that led me to the people that I met and starting, my first band in high school. With looking back, incredible musicians.
For sure.
A guy named Tim O'Donovan, who's still a working musician in Atlanta now. To look back and look at how good we were, I'm just, I'll toot my horn for a minute. Yeah. We were covering Rush.
Right.
Very well.
Yeah. Probably better than
we Rush. Just thought, no, not better than Rush.
I'm sorry.
But no, I don't want to talk it up that much. Yeah. But to the point that we were blowing people's minds in my garage.
Right. Yeah.
And so there was some some touch with, working with really outstanding musicians right out of the gate.
Did you take the drums right away? Like, did you figure it out?
Yes.
Did you,
The first time, it's a little weird, but I had been there were just starting to be some videos on TV. So I was looking and going, okay, so you cross your right arm over the left arm, and that's where that sound comes from. And so I was watching those things on TV, playing on my, I literally did pots and pans.
Oh, yeah.
In my dad's shed, trying to, make a little drum set kind of thing. And one day I went to, it was like a Saturday, and we went to a softball game at church. And I hear something and walk inside the church, and there's some older guys and this drum set sitting there.
Right.
And they're, trying to put a little band together. And I'm staring at the drums and staring. They're like, here, you want to play? I'm like, well, I don't know how. I sat down and played a legitimate beat. The first time I sat behind a kit, the dudes then are like, hey, you want to be in our band?
Oh, wow.
So that actually, I forgot about that. That came before the putting together the Good Rock
Right,
band,
right.
Like a month later, and it was all brushes and 3/4 time, weepy.
Just keeping time, or not rushing or dragging, or everybody's seen the what's the whiplash now? It's like you're I mean, it's a mind fuck because there's so much ethereal talent in drumming that I feel like you can't explain on paper the way you can with a guitar. Like, does that make sense what I'm saying?
It does. I mean, it's
more of a feeling.
It's absolutely so much in the feeling, and it's I think next to singing or whistling, it's clearly what we as humans have done the longest.
Sure.
To make some music, to make people dance, to move people or whatnot. It's the most I don't know what the word is, but in our DNA,
like not tribal, but kind of just it's exists on more of a. I know what you're saying. I lose words when I'm in here.
Yeah,
so.
It'll come to me when I'm in the car driving home. But it is, and it's really interesting to watch. Because I'm around John Nowicki a lot, who's a fantastic drummer, obviously.
Is he self-taught? Was he in band? I don't remember from talking to him.
He and I have talked about that, and if I recall that I want to say he's very self-taught. I don't think he got into the band thing in school.
He's one of those beautiful mind people that like just kind of went the ass backward way into something and figured it out on his own. Like when he played that song for me and he played it left-handed but strung right, I was just like, it gave me a brain cramp, and I was like. He's like, but I don't know any other way. And I kind of get that, but I still think it's quite amazing what he was able to do. Because as hard as it is, well, at least in my perception, as hard as it is to learn a guitar, play guitar, to do what he's doing is that much more just crazy.
But yes, and so it's nice, being around him as a drummer, supporting him, in his band where he's.
Do you ever feel like? Not judged, like, do you feel like, are you guys is he commenting more on drums than you're used to with band members, or?
Oh, that's an interesting question.
So
more than I'm used to.
I brought this up with him, and it's a completely different thing, but there was that one album that Dave Grohl completely re-recorded the drums when the guy wasn't aware of it. So I always think of that when a singer was a drummer in another life, and just wondering how that works out.
It's worked out really well for us, and it probably just has to do with, we get along real well in our
he's a sweetheart.
Match. Yeah, he is, but we can all be dicks when it comes to how you want music to be done.
Right.
So yes, he's a sweetheart, but I'm not going to give him that much.
Sure.
Of a pass.
Yeah. He's got it in him.
But it either works or it doesn't.
Right.
For us, it has really worked. And I'm absolutely confident that I'm a better drummer from being in his band than I was before. Yeah.
So you mentioned band in high school. I mean, how important do you think that was in developing your skill?
My God. I don't know what anything would be like
without
if I hadn't. Yeah. I mean, it led to, because I got straight away, I was, getting some training at school, at a public school, I was being taught rudiments. I was taught how to do things kind of the right way. And it allowed for a lot of practice. during the day at school, and
you know, that Malcolm Gladwell 10,000 hours or something type of
absolutely.
Get it under your belt
and doing
early.
it while you're young, I think just stuff's easier to learn.
Oh, for sure.
When you're young.
Before I had kids, I was really into jujitsu. I would go like 6 or 7 times a week. And my instructor, he's from Brazil, and he was a black belt when he was like 12. And so, you know, I'd always ask him like, what do I do if I'm in this position? He's like, just don't be in that position. And it's like, okay, well, you learned this when you were 9. I'm learning it at 39. It's just a different approach altogether. So I'm sure it's the same way there. What about jazz? Band and jazz music always seem to be kind of the two like training grounds with drumming that kind of influence.
I was hoping you were going to say with drumming because, yeah, I mean, it, not only influencing me directly because that's just what I had to do to get to play a set until I was able to get my own, you know, was go to school and play in jazz band.
Right.
Get yelled at like the guy in Whiplash. You mentioned that movie. I can relate to that. I had not that crazy, but I had a band director that I nearly punched in the face, you know, for getting in my face because I'm just not from that.
Well, you got to
world.
Dealing with your pride and your ego is, I think, a big part about getting better. You know, you don't want to hear that you're off time. Like there's all these stories you hear about like Rick Rubin putting a metronome next to whoever it was. And, you know, that's like a running thing you always hear about with, especially in the production of albums. But
it hurts your pride, but the tape doesn't lie. And you know, there's plenty of things even today where I listen to go, oh man, I really sped up.
Well, yeah. And the other thing that I didn't realize until recently is I got the opportunity to sit in a studio with Wolfface when they were recording a jingle for Liquid Death Water. And they spent fucking 4 hours setting up the drum kit and then putting that part down. And then like 20 minutes, the rest of them came in and did their guitar and their vocals. And it's like, if that's wrong, everything's wrong. Like that is the foundation that the house is built on.
Yeah.
So it's interesting. Did you change your taste as you started getting into drumming? Like, did you start listening to Buddy Rich or start listening to some of these other people who weren't hard rock type music that you started
Absolutely.
off with?
And I'm glad it happened at that age because it planted a seed right away to like, okay, don't just be, you know, banging your head to AC/DC.
Right.
I still love to do that.
For sure, yeah.
But it immediately, not just jazz band, but even what we did in Drumline, that as well, or what the band was doing in general. You know, you walk away humming a melody from, you know, something written a long time ago that has nothing to do with the music on the radio, but you can't stop whistling that melody.
Right.
And so I think it was great. It still didn't deter me. It took a couple more years before I'm all over the place now with music, as most of us are.
Did you go to a bunch of shows growing up? Were you a big live music person?
Yes, I have.
I love talking about that. I love hearing what people have been to.
I've collected as many concert tickets as I could make it home with me, and certainly there are a bunch that are missing,
left in property and evidence.
But I'm over 100 ticket stubs that I have, and
what were some of the highlights?
Oh gosh, that's easy. Alice in Chains on the Dirt tour at Janus Landing, with Screaming Trees opening. The biggest Mark Lanigan. I
love Lanigan too.
At Janus.
Did you read his
Landing.
New book?
I haven't got the new one. I've got I Am the Wolf. I've got like his lyrical book, and I keep meaning to buy his new one. But Morphine at Janus Landing.
I know you're in a Morphine cover band.
Yeah.
Did you know Nowicki back then and everybody? Was that like a shared experience for you, or did you guys?
I didn't know any.
Is that the one who had the horn that instead of the guitar?
Correct.
I always mix up Therapy and Morphine.
Baritone sax, 2-string slide bass guitar, and drums. And it's a mighty sound.
Live. It really is. It's a guttural, deep.
Yeah, that blew my mind.
I mean, I haven't seen them live, but I can extrapolate where you're going with that just knowing their music.
Yes, I mean those are some of the ones I can brag about now to my 15-year younger than me friends that weren't old enough back then. Where people are dead and you can't go see that band now.
Oh well, so I've had like Black Flag at the Cuban, not me, but people come in like Black Flag at the Cuban Club, Bad Brains at the Cuban, Iggy Pop at Tampa Theater, Red Hot Chili Peppers at the Hub. Like, it's like hard for me to imagine knowing these places today. But I always love, what was the Led Zeppelin show that was like in Lakeland or something like that?
Well, there was
there one that was canceled? There's like a story about it. It's like
I don't know about canceled, but they set a world record in like 75 or 76 at the old Sombrero.
Yeah, but no, there's one that was like in Dunedin or Lakeland, and it like got canceled, and there was a riot, or there was. This is going to kill me. I'll remember it later, and I'll message you about it. But so once you were down here in Tampa, you're going through the trade school. That's not where you have ended up professionally.
No, not at all. It's certainly you can't change any part of the story, right, and get to where we are. But it was absolutely fundamental in everything.
Did you work in that field for a while?
Yeah. So I moved here, went to the tech school, and worked in automotive electronics. So there was manufacturing that's not here anymore, but I was in manufacturing, and I was a guy with big nerdy glasses intentionally.
Yeah.
Big mullet, a beard, and like
you got any pictures from them?
Like a scientist smock. Yeah.
Oh, you got to give me one of those. You sound like a mix between Elvis Costello and
it was real messed up. It was real messed up fashion wise. But, I was doing science and getting paid
right.
$7.50 an hour, which that lifted me out of poverty.
Sure.
To get that job. I'm using an oscilloscope, and I'm troubleshooting electronics and test equipment and building things. And, so I did that for a couple of years. I was in the manufacturing for 23 years,
right?
A couple different industries, automotive, electronics for a while, and aerospace and defense for a while, but not doing that. I did that it got me in the door, and I did that for a brief period of time. And people have continuously since then, I'll go away from it, and I'll get pushed back into, hey, could you just lead this team? Could you just manage the whole department? Could you? You're
like Pacino in Godfather 3. Every time I get out, they pull me back.
Yeah. Yeah. So I wound up, working my way up to like operations management and stuff, and then got into a lot of quality improvement and process improvement.
So now you're management, you're reading reports and prospectuses and.
No, I'm more of a process design kind of person. So I just look at how we do things and why things aren't working right, why the process. I'm still fixing things.
You're doing it all remotely right now, aren't you?
Absolutely.
Fascinating. I had the good fortune to be able to come by your house when I bought that ring off you.
Yeah.
Super jealous of your studio, but you were
rock shop.
Yeah, you were back there, I think, working, but you had music going, and you had like the EQ going. It was. It was a circus for the senses in there. But now, are you married?
I am.
Do you have kids?
I do.
All right. How old are they?
11 and 13.
Oh, nice. So, are they homeschool, brick and mortar?
They are at home right now.
Who's doing that with them?
Well, I'm sorry. They're like
in general
e-learning.
They're doing e-learning.
Yeah.
But I guess they're old enough that you don't need to sit there and hold their hand.
Correct.
So as a divorce attorney, I can tell you that homeschooling ended a lot of marriages last year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Younger, but man, that tested a lot of people. And it's, I had one of my biggest years last year, and I think it's specifically because of that. So, as far as music goes, while you were doing the trade stuff into where you're doing now, I know now you've got about 4 or 5 different bands that you're a part of. Have those kind of been what it's been since then, or were there some other big bands? Or
no, actually, that's the sad part of the story is there's about a 20-year
break there.
There's a big gap because when I moved here, it was mostly just trying to survive and get the school thing done.
Right.
And then I get this job, and then it's just, chasing women and working and going to bars. And I honestly kind of checked out because it's amazing what's happened in the last 16 years compared to the first 16 or so years that I was in Tampa. I just didn't meet the right people, go to the right club. I don't know what I did wrong, but, I didn't really pursue it either. I mean, I never have been without my drums.
Music, yeah.
You know, when I moved here, I had a dentist chair, a PA, my drum set, and my bed.
Right. That's all you need.
And then those filled up a studio apartment nicely. And so I became content. There's a few things happened. You know, I was content to be the biggest fan in the world.
Mm-hmm.
It's like I was as happy just loving music and getting excited about new music and all of that as I ever was, you know, playing.
Right.
And I went through a first marriage, and I went back to school forever at night, and, you know, got my bachelor's degree, and I was into wakeboarding.
Oh yeah.
And that ate up
a lot of time too. Yeah.
I skipped stuff. So I went from, like, you know, get out of tech school, and then I studied Taekwondo for a few years and was doing all that, and always like been into something.
Yeah.
But music wasn't happening because I think about this a lot. I look back, I just didn't go to the right place and didn't meet the right people.
You're setting off bells for me, because it's somewhat similar to me. You know, growing up, I was very into music. I was very into art. I had wanted to go to art school and all these things. And then I always cursed the X-Files, because the X-Files made me want to become a lawyer, because I wanted to go into the FBI. And at the time they said you can either be an accountant or a lawyer to get in the FBI. So that's the path I went down. And I met like you said, you change any part of your life, it changes the story. I met my wife, I have my beautiful kids and all these other things. I wouldn't trade it for the world. But at 18, 19, 20, I thought my life was going to be one of an artist, and it didn't end up being that way. But with this podcast, I've now gotten to meet, you and Nowicki and Elliot and Gray and all these people. And so you're mentioning, I just wasn't meeting the right people. It's like now I'm 45 and I'm meeting all these amazing artists who live here locally. And I'm so jealous of them in a lot of ways, because, you know, they have that in their life. And I just think it's so amazing. And I've been so pleasantly surprised to find what a rich musical community we have here. You know, I really think, I was talking about this last week with Ken Apperson, you know, there's really no strong reason why Tampa isn't like Nashville, I don't think.
Right.
You know, the talent's there, the eclectic music is there,
it should have at least, or still should have at the minimum, a Seattle moment.
Yeah. For sure.
Or at least in one period in time, so many good things could come from here right now.
Yeah.
You know, it 100%. Is amazing. I think about it a lot, that I'm, you know, so again, this is more at the end of the story, but looking at where I wound up and the people I've met and the opportunities I have to play music and just be a part of that community is the most fulfilling thing.
So how did you meet Nowicki and all those guys?
It really starts with, I guess the best place to start is I met Pete Newfer.
I've been to his house because Kenny Pullen or whoever was working on it, and he was selling me their Poetry and Lotion T-shirt, and they're like, everybody's like right here.
Two other bandmates of mine.
Yeah,
I met him because of our oldest daughters were friends at daycare.
Okay.
And then, that's, you know, it as a parent, that was like nothing sketchier than, you know, I think at least when your wife comes home and says, hey, you know, I invited these other parents of this kid over and they're coming over Saturday afternoon. I'm like, what do you know about them? Oh God, I don't want to meet. I don't know.
But do you think back to when you were a kid, who you always hung out with on weekends was your friends? Like, at least that was the experience with me. Like, if I think of who are the biggest adults in my life, it was parents of kids I went to school with, that they would all just get together and drink on the weekend.
No.
That wasn't your experience?
No. So let's go back to Southern Baptist.
Oh, sorry. I forgot.
No, you know, somebody, you know, it was usually a family from the church family or no one.
Right.
And of course that was in the days of just dropping by.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're just like, what? Who's that pulling in the driveway? Oh my God.
That's a mortal sin
it's
today.
Lamar.
Yeah. Yeah.
And we would all just freak out because somebody,
yeah. Someone broke up the monotony.
Yeah. It's a fascinating thing. But I'm sorry. I don't know how I got there.
We were talking about meeting Peter and Kenny and all these guys because their kids were in daycare together.
Yeah. I'll throw in that after that long period of school and wakeboarding and a marriage and a move out to Valrico for a while. When all that ended, I was like, okay, I got to fix some stuff. I'm not making any music. This doesn't make sense. And I'm going to move back to Tampa. A single guy wants to live in Valrico. I don't know where you live, but
no, not Valrico.
And yeah, it didn't take me long in an empty house to go, I'm out of here.
Yeah.
So I moved, bought the house that I'm in now. And that's how I met my wife, through neighbors. And that's how it, so got to fill in the pieces there. And our first daughter, befriends Pete's oldest daughter. And the wives meet and they come over and hang out. And, Pete and I have like this moment where neither of us wanted to be in that situation. Because we think like, you're not going to meet another rock and roll guy or someone who's cool or whatnot. And, it didn't take long before, of course, music comes up and he sheepishly says, well, I'm kind of a Rush fan. I'm like, why the hell are you apologizing for that?
Yeah.
So am I.
Yeah.
And we've been best friends since. But that was it. It was meeting Pete Newford.
Okay.
And he's like, and at the time I was at that very moment, I was in kind of the first year of the first band that I helped put together.
What was that band?
Ghengis Flan.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've heard
Americana-ish.
Yeah.
A little soulful sometimes.
Right.
And that's a really fun story how it just came together. And that was my first doing anything as a guitar player. So
Nowicki was a drummer for that band, right?
No, I hadn't met him.
Oh, okay.
No, I had a few drummers for that band. One, like two of them, I just like, again, I hadn't met Newfer or that, which opened up that whole community. So I knew no one.
Right.
So like the first two drummers for Ghengis Flan, I found on Craigslist.
Right. Luckily, you weren't killed in a motel.
I just put an ad,
and
and that's an interesting.
Looking
you'll
for
get
what
some
work,
interesting responses from that.
Yeah.
But it worked, and it helped us get along. And then I got a guy named Vernon Cole, who's a fantastic drummer. I had worked with him.
Did you do the whole Yeomans on Davis Island scene, or what was your place in the world?
We were a bit of the house band at the front porch when they first started having bands. I think we were literally
the first band,
the first or second band to ever play there. And that's right across the street from where I live.
Right,
so, well, yeah, this works.
Yeah.
And then that led us to get to play at Ella's and the old, when it was Florida Avenue Brewing, we played there a lot.
Right.
And just, same thing as I kind of do now, just make the Seminole Heights circuit.
Right.
It was enough fun,
right.
Enough action there. But I didn't know anyone. So we, and neither did the guys in Ghengis Flan. We just, me, Ryan Statt, Jimmy Kalis are both my neighbors.
Right.
And
it's a very tight-knit community. It's a very interesting community. I moved to the office here in 2017. And as soon as I did that, I immediately joined all the Seminole Heights Facebook pages and the Tampa Heights. And you get to know the personalities a little bit around that in between conversations about, did anybody hear that gunshot? Did anybody see this bike get stolen? What's that helicopter doing? I mean, does
anybody know what's opening up on?
Yeah. But I mean, at some point we put that mural on the side that faces Tampa Street, and Ray Roa from Creative Loafing reached out to me and he's like, is that a Elliott Smith homage? I was like, yeah, it is. I used to listen to that with my wife and law school. And he's like, oh, cool. And so then he became like my toehold. And then I'd like, who else can I talk to? And he's like, well, you should talk to Dave Decker. And he does the photos for us, but he's got his band. And then my buddy Greg is in Wolfface. He's an attorney. And it's just been this domino effect of meeting all these. And now I got Elliot. I don't know if I was going to introduce you to him after, but Elliot, who's one room over from us now, just started yesterday. And he sings for 3 bands locally. He's badass. So anyway, but all these people, and it's eclectic too. It's not just metal. It's not just Americana. It's not just hip hop. It's not just Latin. It's not just, there's really just, so with Ghengis Flan, what were the bands after that?
So while I was still in Ghengis Flan, I started a duo with my kid's piano teacher, who Natalie was Schultes at the time.
What year are we looking at, right around?
So Flan was probably 2010.
So this is all just the past 10 years we're talking about.
Yeah.
Seems like much longer than that.
Yeah, there was a kind of maybe a period of, well, not maybe, there was a definite period of, okay, I'm playing guitar now, and I think it's time to buy an electric guitar, and again, go back to my neighbors, especially, Jimmy Kalis, who's still my next door neighbor. I had just moved there, and when I moved and bought that house, I'd had my guitar for a year.
What was your electric?
Oh, it wasn't. I just had a Alvarez acoustic, okay. and then I met a guitar teacher at the end of the street, old hippie teaching out of his shop,
right?
And turned out to be a great teacher. I studied with him for like a year and a half, and while doing that, my neighbor sees me doing that, and it's like, well, I've always wanted to play bass, and so he buys a bass and starts taking lessons from the same guy, and then for at least one Halloween party at my house, we played as a trio. And the teacher, he was, of course, he was phenomenal,
right?
Guitar player, and he had us playing jazz stuff where we could just, 4 chords you can repeat and just keep going and let him rip. And then that led to us, kind of growing and playing together and thinking, man, we should get a drummer over here. Hey, I know somebody, and that's Vernon Cole. And then,
how did drumming inform your picking up the guitar? Do you feel like it helped, or?
I think so. I'll go as a songwriter. Again, it's hard for me to get interested in developing something if I'm not interested in something rhythmically.
Right.
So I just start as a rhythm guitarist, and it's my favorite place, and it's really about all I can do on guitar anyhow.
Right.
But that's the way I like to write, and going back to, in kind of the last year or two, going back to acoustic styles and adding on some technique and knowledge there, I realized, hey, wait a minute, I've got this rhythm thing down. I can do, multiple things at the same time. And so working on a more percussive approach to, if it's just me and an acoustic guitar, how do you make that interesting when I'm not, a gee whiz player? And that is, working in a strumming pattern that lets you slap the guitar and keep that rhythm. And all of a sudden,
do you know Blake Mills? Do you ever listen to Blake Mills?
I don't.
You got to check him out. He's like a wizard, and he's played on a bunch of other people's. He's not local. He's a national guy. He's played on a bunch of other people's albums, and he did a lot of session stuff. But there's a video I'll send you, and his big thing is he's like, at some point you get bored of guitar, and you either do something else or you figure out a way to make your guitar sound like something else. And so he started getting into like all these weird like Indian type of situations with acoustic guitar and making it sound like a different instrument. But the percussion thing is interesting because when I was talking with Ken last week about it, at some point along the way, someone explained guitar to me as, if you're right-handed, a keyboard in your left hand and a drum in your right hand. You're looking at the fretboard like a keyboard, and really your strumming hand is percussion, and so understanding that rhythm and all that. So I just wondered if the drumming helped you in that way.
Absolutely. In songwriting, because the same kind of rhythms that I'm thinking of for a fill or for some kind of ride on the drums, it's the same kind of rhythms that it's going to wind up in a riff,
right?
That I like to play around with.
So where does Rototiller and where does the Holy Terror, how did those begin?
So I'm gonna go back to try to finish the first question. No, that's okay. I was just taking too long. I'll take a long story and make it longer.
No, that's awesome.
While Flan, I get an acoustic duo because I had some ballad stuff. I'm like, nobody wants to. In this band, that's not.
No one wants
quite,
to play that, yeah.
And you don't want to do too much of it in a band anyhow. If you're going to show up with drums and a bass, go ahead and rock.
Yeah, people aren't going to.
Go ahead and rock. Don't.
Because you're playing like a high school dance, which I don't even think people do anymore. But,
and I had this other stuff kind of sitting on the shelf, and I meet Natalie, who's a fantastic cellist and a good singer, and we hit it off the first time we played. I threw something out there and she started playing, and we were like, okay, let's do this.
Yeah.
And so that was the End of Daisies.
Okay.
And we, played the same little circuit around here and some things. And so that was maybe 2014, 15 or 16, 17, somewhere in there. And then during that same time, Swampus.
This
was my
Meets.
first.
I talked to Meets about Swampus. Yeah.
This was my. It's so strange, but this was my first drumming gig in this community that we're talking about. So here I am, barely a guitar player, and that's what I'd start doing around the scene. And then Owen or whoever, figured out like, hey, he sent me some recordings with some riffs and stuff. And
he's a deep dude too.
Super deep, super intelligent, smart, uses words I have to look
You
up.
guys are a very smart band. You remind me of the sound for Holy Terror anyway. For some reason, Zappa is just the thing that gets me, because for me, Nowicki's like Tampa Zappa. He just kind of is this absurdist, talented musician. But when Meets came in, he wasn't putting eyes on him, and then what came out of him was a complete 180 from what I expected. Mm-hmm. I mean, religion, philosophy, politics, history, all these things, he can just really go into it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Just about pick your subject, and
I
he probably knows
that.
A little more than me on it.
Because I'm so fucking ADD, I can know just enough to talk about it, but I can't get deep into it.
So I'm sure he told you about the Compound and Short Circuit Studios.
Yeah.
And so when I met Newfer, and I showed Newfer Ghengis Flan, because I didn't know any of those guys, but we had already kind of started, we were on our way. And he's like, oh man, you guys going to record? You got to go to Short Circuit Studio. So he takes me over one afternoon to, like a party there. And I thought I had just died and gone to heaven. There's nothing but musicians and cool people, a studio with people just rotating in and out. Like the jam never stopped, and you just could go in and pick up an instrument, or walk out, eat some. Owen's out there grilling some really good food.
Well, they're all fucking chefs too, or they've all worked in the food service industry. Right. So
like, this is this is I could like leave my family over this. Not kidding.
Yeah.
But that's how I met Owen through Newfer. That's how I met everybody, but through Newfer, and so Ghengis Flan did wind up recording our CD at Short Circuit, and that's kind of how I got to know Owen and Troy Cedinho. And somewhere through that, Owen was ready to start a band and knew I could play drums, knew I liked some heavy stuff. And I think he sent me riffs and asked me about playing guitar with him. And I'm like, I will do this if you let me play drums.
Right.
I want to play drums with this. And Swampus was one of the best experiences as a drummer, to just get to go nuts.
Why is Swampus no longer with us?
Well, Swampus is still with us.
Oh, is it? We're sitting right here in front of me. Yeah.
We're all here.
Yeah. Permanent vacation.
Originally, so that's interesting. That's a good question to ask now that Owen's back in Tampa. That's a great question to ask. But you guys don't have time on your hands just the challenge of a long distance relationship with the band leader in Mayaca Valley and the rhythm section in Tampa. That's tough to maintain,
right?
And everything also kind of runs its course. I don't think Swampus ran its course. There's plenty of good music we could do. I'm sure Owen's cooking stuff up right now.
Talking to you. We're looking at you, Owen.
Yeah. Get the writing.
So that was Owen. That was Swampus. And so Nowicki was there.
That's definitely. So what's interesting is through just the Short Circuit Studio, through the Dylan Griffiths crowd, through the Compound, is undoubtedly how I started to just meet John and get introduced to him and stuff. But we didn't do anything other than poetry, giving Ghengis an opening spot here or there. And so I didn't really know John. I'll tell you what happened. When John started, I think in earnest, going out with his solo acoustic stuff, I started catching that. And I'm like, man, I dig this guy's voice. I like he's of course he's going to touch my heart playing some old Mad Season, and some stuff like that. But I really like his voice, and so he did some support for like End of Daisies and Swampus. I know he did some of his acoustic opening when Swampus was out playing, and that's more how we kind of started hanging out.
Do you try and when you're starting these bands or joining these bands, do you like discuss reference points as far as music? Like, I'm kind of looking for a this meets this type of deal, or do you just kind of play and it sounds like whatever it sounds like?
Yeah, you just kind of play. For me, you just kind of play, or I forget who said it. A lot of people have said it, but it kind of starts with just guys who are people who aren't complete dicks. That you can, first off, can you stand to be in the room with them for an hour at a time? And if that part works out okay, hopefully you can play well, and hopefully we like the same things. And there's a few boxes that you have to check
for sure
there. And I think sometimes if you know the person, you know what they play, it kind of gives you an idea of would you even want to try to make some music with them or not.
Right.
I think so. That can make you miss the boat on some things too. I think if I hadn't have, jammed out at the Compound or something with Owen, he would have thought of me as this acoustic Americana guy back then. Never would have dreamed of like, hey, do you want to play drums in my band Swampus?
Right.
Wouldn't have happened if you just judged me on that one thing I was doing.
Right.
At the time.
So how many active do you have going right now?
Active is 3.
Okay.
And that's Rototiller, which Rototiller.
That's kind of your baby at this point, right?
Yeah. I'd call it my band.
Yeah.
Take that, guys.
Well, when I came and got that ring for you, you were nice enough to give me some swag, and I got the Rototiller. I put it in right away, and I dug it. It was yeah. And again, a different sound from Swampus, a different sound from Holy Terror, a different sound from, it's more kind of straightforward rock, kind of. It's been a minute since I listened to it, but for some reason I had a Queens of the Stone Age and REM vibe like simultaneously.
I'm going to come across this desk and kiss you on the lips.
Oh, good.
Right now.
I checked off
you
2 years.
You couldn't have done better.
I love Hom. He's one of my favorite guitarists. He just does, it's that same video series. I'm going to blow you up on Facebook tonight, because every time I talk to anybody you have you seen the Noisy Vice ones with the guy from what was the name of that band? He's been with Homi and Iggy in the post-pop depression. Matt, I'm drawing a blank, but he sits down with all these guitarists, and he did it with Homi. He did it with St. Vincent. He did it with Dean Ween. He did it with.
I watch all those shows.
Yeah.
Or if that's YouTube, I everything I can get my hands on. Where
I'll send you the Homi one, because there's something about Queens of the Stone Age where it's darker sounding. The solos, the music, there's the chords, the notes that he plays.
I've watched as much Josh Homme stuff as I can find.
Then you've probably seen it. He looks like he's clearly high on coke. He's just pouring sweat and like.
I've watched that.
Yeah, super.
Like it's almost it's not the what's in your bag, but it's
similar
hot licks or something. It's something
probably
like Your Guitar Secrets or something.
Yeah.
And then he goes through. He is sweating in that. I've always been like. I've had other theories like
was your AC out, or were you just at the peak of your drug binge at that point?
They were both sweating in that.
Well, so it could have been, but in any event,
but that's the best Rototiller. I've always likened it. What I want to do is have kind of the REM, emotive side and baritone side mixed with Malcolm Young rhythm guitar and just guitar forward. Go.
REM was a big one for me growing up. I don't remember if it was Document or which the first one was that I got into, but I remember it was one summer, and it had to be right around 8th or 9th grade. My dad's sister lived up in Syracuse, New York, and they were both school teachers. So I never went on an airplane until I was out of the house. Like, we didn't pay for flights. We drove. If you went to New York, you fucking drove to New York. And it was Check Your Head. It was REM Out of Time. And it was Hairway to Steven by the Butthole Surfers. And those were the 3 that I just wore out. And I just listened to that jangly guitar. It's almost like a Johnny, who's the Smiths guy? Johnny Marr jangly guitar thing with REM, but different. There was a Southern folky, bluegrassy thing going on.
Yeah, it's been said that Peter Buck's right hand, is
touched by God.
Is one of the most essential parts of REM. He does
plus the harmonizing, the singing. is another big part of it.
I could go on all day about how important every member of REM. I think Mike Mills is the unsung hero.
He's the Michael Anthony of REM.
yeah, man. Because his singing, his stuff. Yeah. Mike Mills doesn't get enough credit.
And then with it's funny in that video with Hami where he's talking about how he learned to play guitar. His guitar teacher was a polka teacher.
Yeah.
And he's like, everything I've done since then has got this kind of truncated and it's true. And you mix that rhythm with his kind of off notes or skipping notes and scales or choosing minor, just kind of that's what's interesting. So there's that. And then my I don't want to say my guilty pleasure, but the album that I listened to most in my life, the one that from a guitar perspective was Blood Sugar Sex Magik and John Frusciante. There's something so transcendent about that album. And at the end of what's the one where he's basically having sex with a police officer fucking A, man, this is killing me. Anyway,
I'm sorry.
It's fine. It's like the last 10 minutes of that song is just Frusciante playing this circular like guitar solo. And that's just all my life is like, if I can ever learn to play that, I'm going to sit down a guitar and I'll be done at that point. And it's not that difficult from people who know how to play guitar. But for me, that's like the golden ring that I want to.
Yeah, I saw them. I believe it was
I'm listening to you, but I'm going to look this up because it's going to kill me. Go ahead.
It was either that's okay, man. If you want to play on your phone.
No.
Whichever Lollapalooza they headlined, either 92 or 93, Red Hot Chili Peppers was that was a
Sir Psycho Sexy. The end of that song, if you can't hear it in your head now tonight or when you're driving home, just and it's like 2 minutes and 32 seconds. Like I'll just fast forward to that point of the song just to listen to that. I love it so much. But anyway.
Yeah, they that was such a great moment.
Oh yeah.
I one nice thing about my age, and as I tell my young friends, I was in my 20s in the 90s.
Yeah, so you had to go to all the shows that their parents wouldn't take them to.
The timing, I think that was a good decade musically for a rock guy.
Jane's Addiction
to be coming of age.
Yeah,
absolutely. Jane's Addiction is where I woke up and was like, okay, there's more to the life than Aerosmith and Van Halen.
Sinister, darker corners where
there's really
unspeakable things are happening. Yeah.
Who's this dude with the dreads and the polyester?
Have you seen him now? He's got the worst facelift. It's awful. I can't look at him.
It's really,
It's really bad. I just don't know why he would do that.
I'm with you.
Did you see this year's Lollapalooza where there was streaming because of COVID?
I might have checked out a cut or two, but
Hami does a
I saw
Them
that.
Crooked Vulture song, which is great.
That's what I saw.
But then they reunited Porno for Pyros, and the great thing, I like Porno for Pyros, fine, a great band, but the great thing is you see this old heavyset guy sitting behind them on the steps playing bass, and it's Mike Watt, just in the back. He's playing bass for Pornos for Pyros, and he looks like someone's grandfather who like collects cans now, but he's my favorite bass player of all time. I love the Minutemen. I watch that documentary at least once a year. I have his signature bass, so I'm a big fan of Watt. But where do we go? Oh, so Porno for Pyros.
Yeah, but
Lollapalooza.
Before we got there, you were talking about the Josh Homme and the polka and the things that influence what you do today. And I think for me, drumline in high school, you march in, the band marches into a cadence.
Yeah.
Or you march on off the field, to a cadence. And it was always something, a little funky and really, really made everybody stand up and take notice.
Right.
And I think those kind of rhythms stayed with me as a drummer and as a rhythm guitarist. Those kind of rhythms are important, mixed with, so for all the, bad mouthing I did on my church music as a kid, damned if I don't really, gravitate towards the dreary, weepy, slow tempo, really emotive stuff. I can't stop writing that stuff. I don't put much of it out because I just do too much of it.
Oh, you can. I mean, I got on this kick just before Christmas where I was watching this video of Jeff Buckley play the same song over and over and over and over and over again. And I mean, that's all he did. Lover, You Should Have Come Over. He plays it live in Chicago.
Oh, yeah.
And it's a religious experience.
I might have the VHS tape of that Chicago show. Yeah. I'm pretty sure I do.
And this sickly, thin little white dude just belting out. Just amazing. So, anyway, well, so are the family taking you out for your birthday tonight?
Yes. And they've been super good.
Is it a surprise, or
they always are?
Yeah,
they always are. No, we're going for some Mexican. It's a place we can all agree on. Something, you know how challenging that is.
Do you know what that place is yet?
Yeah, okay. Mechanitas.
Okay. What about your kids? Do they like the same music you like, or are they on a different kick entirely? Or
my 13-year-old won't even tell me what she likes or let me hear it.
Okay. So it's probably something with Lil in the name somewhere. Lil or Cardi or ASAP or something like that.
I think she picks up on because they both play.
They do.
Oh yeah.
Well, I think you mentioned piano for one of them, I thought.
They both have learned piano.
That's beautiful. That's awesome.
And the oldest now is actually we just for Christmas got her own bass clarinet.
Wow!
I didn't know there was a bass clarinet.
Yeah.
And she really loves that. And
that's badass, though.
I'll get you. I'll take out a loan. I'll get a credit card. What do you want?
If my kid asks for a book or a musical instrument, I'll get it for him. Yeah.
There was not a moment of hesitation. I'm like, okay, I'd rather you, I kind of need you to keep playing keys and, because I have an idea for a family band and
you got to do the Jeff Tweedy thing. Yeah.
The bass clarinet's not in it. All right.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a difficult one to work in.
Did having kids affect your songwriting? That's probably why you're wanting to write so many ballads is you're all weepy about your kids. That's how I get.
No, let's go back to the Southern Baptist thing. Because there's like this memory of, and even harmonies that I like come from the harmony my mom chose standing next to her in church and like hearing her sing.
Oh, wow.
What she picked and did. And she hasn't done musical training or whatever.
Right.
I've just a super musical family on her side. Everybody.
Yeah.
Musicians. And that's more, I think, the influence to harmonies that I like and some things like in the End of Daisies stuff. If you ever listen to that.
Is the End of Daisies somewhere that I can hear it online? Is it on anything?
Absolutely. Yeah. Okay. It's everywhere.
Because I think I've heard Swampus. I know I've heard the Holy Terror. I know I heard
the Rototiller.
Because you gave that to me. But some of the other stuff you gotta direct me to.
Sure. Yeah.
What about Ghengis Flan? Is that somewhere too?
Oh yeah.
All right.
Yeah. With all of them, I've done the. When you get the CDs made, you go ahead and pay the $50 for the digital distribution, and it's everywhere.
Right.
It makes this kind of transaction easy, where I can just.
I wish it got that way with vinyl. I had this grand ideas for putting out vinyl for certain local people, and then Keith at Microgroove was like, "Let me tell you why that's the worst fucking idea ever in the world." He's like, "Yeah, you're going to pay for 5,000 of them, sell 2 of them, and then have to figure out what to do with the rest of them."
Right.
So, have you written any new music during COVID? Is there
a lot?
Okay, for a couple of the different things, or one of the things specifically, or
yes. So I've got a lot of material for Rototiller. I haven't worked on that as much, but lately,
your vocals and guitar in that.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Is it a 4-piece or a 3-piece?
3-piece.
Okay. And who's on drums and who's on bass?
Greg Furisi is on drums, and he's a monster.
Okay.
He's like a Barrett Martin from the latter part of Screaming Trees.
Yeah. Oh my God, they have such a like tribal, dun, dun,
yeah.
Dun, yeah.
By the way, the word I was looking for earlier in this is primordial.
Drumming. All right. Well, there you go.
Very
good.
It came to me a while ago. And
there you go.
Waiting for the right.
You got to
slip it back.
I'll do that sometimes. It's like I'll have to make notes and come back to it later. But
yeah, Rototiller is Greg Furisi, which he was the last drummer in Ghengis Flan.
Okay.
And then Newfer is on bass.
Okay.
And vocals for Rototiller, and so for Newfer and I, this is our 3rd band together. Swampus, Holy Terror.
So you guys got to thank your wives for getting you together.
And it's interesting, all bands are relationships, and it's probably been done, but one day I'm going to write that book.
Yeah.
I go right down the line with every single analogy that you have in a marriage, or if you're dating, or if you're just sleeping around.
And your wife's kind of off topic, but your wife's supportive of it. She's
absolutely.
Yeah.
You couldn't.
That's a big part of it.
I'd either be divorced or I wouldn't be in 3 bands.
Right. You pick one or the other if it doesn't work out across.
Yeah. That's been an amazing thing. Now, she's not supportive as in, oh, honey, what a great song you wrote.
No, she'll tell you it's shit, but
she's used the word sucks.
Well, you get to a certain point in a marriage and it's good when people have something to do away from each other. It's like,
and you know what? It takes enough to, I do enough stroking my own ego. I don't need her building me up in any way that's not necessary.
Sharpen your sword. Yeah.
When she does comment on something, I take it to the bank that's good.
She listen to the same stuff you do, or she have different tastes, or?
We cross over on a few places, but not too much. She's would go more for like, Macy Gray to, she grew up you need to interview her, get her,
please.
She's got a very interesting life.
Tell her to come in here. I'm all the way down. I a lot of times find spouses of people who are guests to be more interesting than the guests are, because, they kind of get it from a different angle. Like living with a creative person is not always the easiest thing to do. I think people who are artists, who are good artists, usually are moody fucks.
You took the words.
Yeah.
We're a moody bunch.
Yeah. Yeah. So it's not always the easiest to be in a relationship with someone like that.
But I think why we get the support when we do is they know about these moods, the spouses. And they know the best thing for these moods is for us to go make music.
Right.
And so stopping that doesn't make anything better. But that doesn't necessarily mean they have to, support you being in 3 bands while there are 2 kids in the house and everybody's working full time and all that stuff, but we manage it. I'm efficient. So I make it where it's not a challenge for her.
I was talking to Scott Anderson from Have Gun Will Travel, and he, similar situation. He's like adores his wife. He's like, she's the best thing in the world. She, facilitates me doing this, and it kind of works out because every other minute you're not doing that, you're going out of your way to make their life easier or better. Yeah.
Here's what you do. You do the laundry.
Yeah.
All of it.
Yeah.
All the way.
Yeah.
All
put it
the
away,
time.
fold it, put it away in the right drawer.
You make it so that when you're, after you've packed your drums in the car,
there's nothing left.
She's not looking around the house going,
Yeah. There's dishes in the sink or whatever.
Right.
Yeah.
And he's out playing music. She's sitting in a clean house.
You hear that, clients?
I'm down.
This.
I could help, and it also helps to go through a divorce.
Well, the biggest one besides laundry and dishes, I love when I ask them their date of marriage and they can't remember it.
Ooh.
Yeah, it's like, oh, you're doomed.
Cinco de Mayo.
Yeah. Oh, well, that made it easy.
I pick holidays.
Mine was July 3rd, so it was
easy.
Everybody was at the beach already, so that was just how that worked out.
Mm-hmm.
So writing music for Rototiller, and gigs booked,
and we had something at Red Star. And I've got too many complications with that weekend.
Yeah.
So I would love to be sitting here telling you and everyone else, come see us this coming Friday.
Yeah.
But I had to back out of that for some personal reasons. But I'm mostly, you asked about during the pandemic. And I hate to, I'm cautious of being the guy bragging about what great things have happened to me during the pandemic when it's awful for so many people.
You're not being an ass about it. I mean, it's better to be honest.
I'm trying to help people during this too.
Yeah.
But I've the time at home, the extra time, that's extra time to play guitar. That's extra time to write. That's extra time to sharpen the pencil. And honestly, the lack of gigs means also more time to write, more time to practice. I've been studying online with Sean Kyle.
Yeah.
As a very advanced guitar teacher.
He was telling me he's at the peak of his powers right now from how much he's been playing recently. He's like,
I bet. Yeah. I mean, you need your top shelf to come in and fill the spots when there's nothing national coming through. And so it's fantastic to see that.
And that's a conversation I'd love to have with you probably on another one, but I'm hoping that this becomes a imagining of the importance of local music in people's day-to-day life, because you're not going to have that national there. You're going to have, if you're going to want live music, if you're going to want new music, it's going to be that.
Yeah. So, we all need to the rest of us need to step up and fill in those spots. But I've written quite a few songs for this. I keep threatening to do this solo album, and I'm going to play everything.
I think you mentioned that to me when I met you that first time.
Well, I did a song in the summer, so I got enough gear.
That's what you did. You sent me a link to it.
Yeah. And I, write it, record it, play everything.
Yeah.
And do everything. I mixed it myself, and it came out pretty good. I mean, I kept sending it to, my mentors, Owen and Troy.
Yeah.
And getting pointers from them, and then going back, sitting down at the DAW and working on things. And so the one song, and it's, I'll call it demo quality. It's still got a ways to go, but doing that, my first time doing everything convinced me to go ahead, finish getting the room to sound right.
Well, that's just it with your background in mechanics and all that. The fact that you don't have your own studio fully functioning is only a matter of time, I would guess.
I'm just about there.
Just about there, yeah.
Like I before I came here, I was almost late because I was putting my drums back up, unpacking them from the last show Husky Moonliners did. Because I'm like, that's what I'm going to do on my birthday. I'm going to set up my drums. I just got kind of enough of the right gear to properly mic up my drums in there, and I was just going to start toying.
There's like a plethora now. You got, I think Kyle's got set up. I think Scott Anderson's got a set up. Owen's got a set up.
And those are certainly more legit with people that know what they're doing and that are.
I just love that there's that.
People need to go to them. I'm not actually. So I don't want to give anyone the impression that I'm opening a studio and other people are going to come in. I'm just a selfish old guy who's going to have his
an
own
enthusiast.
Stuff and I'm going to sit out there and make demos and then go to those guys for the real thing.
Sure. I don't know what the word enthusiast always reminds me. Do you know Alan Partridge, the Steve Coogan movies? They're like English movies. He's like a radio show host.
I don't think so.
Well, he's a radio show host, and there's this one scene, and it's always funny. Like you're just catching the end of a Fleetwood Mac song, and he goes, "That was 1970s cocaine enthusiast Fleetwood Mac," and I just love that was the way that he introduced Fleetwood Mac.
Yeah.
All right. Well, gosh, you came here, gave me time on your birthday. That's pretty awesome. I feel honored.
Sitting and talking about yourself for however long.
Well, I think we got another show on us maybe in a couple of months when, maybe a Rototiller album's been recorded or a solo album is out there on people's devices.
They're both going to happen.
Super stoked. And I can't wait to see. I want to see live music again. I haven't seen anything since GMF 2020. I wanted to go see Have Gun at Ella's this weekend, but I couldn't. And this Saturday, do you know the Zoots? Have you ever seen the Zoots show at Crowbar?
Mm-mm.
So it's all these guys who went to University of Florida together. And it's literally like 30 different people, and they just tag in and tag out, pass their guitars, pass their basses, drums, and it's all covers. But it's amazing. They do everything from Tom Petty to Metallica to Black Sabbath to Coolio to Snoop Dogg to Biz Markie, and they literally play like the 6-hour set. Because of COVID, Tom's scaling it way back. It's like 100 max thing, but I love that. You reminded me of that when you were telling me about that party at the studio. Very similar type of situation.
Yeah, I miss those days.
So live music. So hopefully I'll get to see you play in 2021.
You will, no doubt. We'll make some opportunities. I can't promise that you'll be there.
I'll be there. I'll make it happen. Thank you so much. Happy birthday. I hope you enjoy your Mexican food. Thank you for coming by, and hopefully it'll come back soon.
It's my pleasure. I've been enjoying these.
Well, I appreciate. Oh, wait, we didn't even talk about Orsini. We got to talk about Scott Orsini.
He married my wife and I. He officiated our.
So I think you might have asked me if I knew him when I came over that day, but then he's been messaging me. He's like, "Do you know Scott?" I was like, "Yeah, actually." And so we actually talk about you all the time. So Scott's a good dude. He used to be a pain in my fucking ass when I started because he wasn't easy on younger attorneys, but now he's let me into the club. So
I can see that.
Yeah. Now we just match tattoos to each other.
He's central. I mean, I met my wife at his birthday party.
It's all these little events that kind of.
That's how critical those connections.
Right. Good stuff. Well, thank you again. I appreciate it. What's that?
I was going to ask if you're.
I didn't wear it today.
You're not wearing the ring.
I wore it this weekend. I didn't wear. That's
no wonder Twin Powers. Then
sorry, it's more of my going out ring than my
right on
running child support guidelines ring. So, in any event, all right. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.